This is the ultimate everyday supercar, the 997 Porsche Turbo. Now, Snowball Rally recently has completely warped my opinion on what is possible to drive year-round, but let's check out something with a little more practicality. So this is the 997 generation 911. I remember when we reviewed the 2014 Turbo S, a lot of people were confused when we kept saying 991. That wasn't a mistake. It's actually both 991 and 911. So what do I mean by that? Well, the number that a lot of people aren't familiar with, 997 or 991 in that case, is the internal code used by Porsche that designates a certain range of model years. So let's take a run back through history, shall we? From 1963 to 1989, it was just called the 911. From 1989 to 1994, we had the Porsche 964. Then we had the 993 generation from 95 to 98. Now that was the last of the air-cooled Porsches. When they switched to water-cooled for the 996 generation, that upset a lot of purists. Hence why you're seeing a lot of these older 993s skyrocketing in value. So then we had the 996, which nobody really cares about because it's ugly, from 1999 to 2004. Then 2005 to 2011, we had the 997. That's what this is. This is actually a 2007. And then 2011 plus, the 991. From the 996 generation to this car, there was a radical overhaul, thankfully. The looks are much sharper. We've got a new engine, new all-wheel drive system. Under the hood, in the rear of the vehicle, characteristic of 911s, is a 3.6-liter flat six, twin turbocharged, making 480 horsepower and 502 pound-feet of torque. Now that's stock. This vehicle is not stock, and we'll talk about that in a bit. 3,400 pounds, 5-speed automatic Tiptronic transmission. That's interesting. You could either get a 5-speed automatic in this year. In 2009, we had the introduction of the PDK, which revolutionized what it meant to have a fast shifting gearbox. And honestly, this Tiptronic is not very good. With its 3,400 pound curb weight, that meant 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. That's as fast as the much more expensive, higher horsepower Carrera GT. So I mentioned this wasn't stock. Well, thanks to a tune from APR, on 93 octane, it bumps from 480 to 560 horsepower and 660 pound-feet of torque. On 100 octane, it goes all the way up to 610 horsepower and 700 pound-feet of torque. That's nuts. The best part is the tune only costs $2,500. The fact that you can get this car, the base price of a 2007 Turbo back then was 130 grand. Of course, with Porsche, just to have a seatbelt that clips into a buckle is an option that costs a lot of money. They're now worth half that. You can pick these up all day long for under 70 grand, buy the tune, and you've got an absolute monster of a car that's beautiful, practical, can drive it year-round. Pretty awesome. Let's put it in sport mode here. So we've got Porsche Active Suspension Management, or PASM for short. That is a computer-controlled suspension that's constantly monitoring the road to allow to soak up bigger bumps in the road, but also have it corner really flat when you're driving aggressively. Porsche suspension is absolutely wonderful. But my favorite part of all Porsches is the steering. There's something about the size of the steering wheel, the weight of the steering. Now they have gone from hydraulic power steering to electronically assisted power steering, but they've done it in such a way that it still feels natural and you still feel that communication with the road. There's just something about driving a Porsche that's special. Looking out over the hood, it slopes down, but you've got the two bulges where the front headlights are. It feels like the sights of a gun pointed exactly where you want to go, and just the smallest input in the steering wheel and the car darts from side to side. It is so pleasing to drive. Now let's check out the Tiptronic transmission. Way slower than the PDK. Downshift, wait, and then it downshifted. That's unbelievable. I'm so used to, from Porsche, being able to shift instantly. Oh my God, even the upshifts are slow. Wow. I think if you're gonna get a pre-2009 Porsche Turbo, you gotta get it with the manual. Now it is very cold out, we're on summer tires, so the amount of grip is probably gonna be low, but it's nice having a rear engine vehicle that's a lot of extra weight over the rear wheels for an extra takeoff. It's awesome seeing 911s take off from a standstill. They squat down and just shoot forward with such speed. It's really a sight to see. Now 0 to 60 on this car, I imagine low 3-second range. It's limited by the transmission. Now with the PDK gearbox, I'm sure you'd be well into the mid to high 2-second range with 610 horsepower for sure. The interior hasn't changed much over the generations. We've got a very simple layout. The Sport Chrono package gives us a little lap timer in the center there. We've got 5 round dials to give you information about the vehicle. Of course, in the center is the tachometer because it's a Porsche race car. That's the most important. On the left, we've got something called the speedometer. We don't really worry about that because this car is so quick. It's best not to pay attention to that. Well, it really wouldn't make sense testing such a powerful car without at least experiencing the acceleration more than a handful of times. So let's punch it. Oh, when those turbos spool up, wow, that is an exciting feeling. I love the blow-off valve too. I imagine with the tune, the turbo spool and blow-off is more aggressive than before. Well, I apologize in advance because now after feeling that, the rest of this video is going to be comprised of me making weird faces as the car accelerates brutally. Wow, when those turbos kick in. That is fantastic. One thing is, if you do lose control in a 911 and you start to slide, that rear end spins around quick. I was doing some drifts in the parking lot and making sure to counter steer quicker than normal because otherwise a little bit too much gas and you spin a 180 instantly. Now, I will admit one component of a supercar is the sound. And to be honest, 911 turbos pretty much sound like powerful vacuum cleaners. Those turbos suck the life out of the exhaust and you don't get that beautiful flat 6 sound like you do in the GT3s and GT3 RSs. It is a bummer because even the Carrera S with the sports exhaust sounds better than a 911 turbo and you're paying much more for the turbo. I'm hoping that after Ferrari, what they did with the 488, now I haven't actually been in one, but I hear that they've done a decent job of making it sound naturally aspirated. It's not as throaty and aggressive as the 458, but it's definitely less of a vacuum cleaner than the 911 turbo is. So hopefully the next generation after that, I'm hoping they'll bring an epic exhaust to it. The seats in the 911 are very, very comfortable. We don't have the largest side bolsters, but something about the design, this kind of reminds me of a penguin here, holds you in place very nicely. You also are set up in the perfect position for spirited driving. You can set up the seat exactly how you want, feel like you're on top of the road. The visibility is absolutely incredible, especially compared to its competitors, something like an Audi R8. The rear visibility, we've got a massive rear window, side visibility, and the frontal viewing area is great. Of course, something special with the 911 is the ignition located on the left side of the steering wheel. The reason behind that was, in old racing, they would actually start outside of their car. They would jump in and put the car in first gear. And with the Porsche, it was easier, they figured out, to put it on the left side so that you could slide the key into the keyhole while putting it in gear at the same time to start the race quicker. Pretty cool trivia. Well, I've very much enjoyed my time with the 911. I do really think that this is one of the best, if not the best, sports cars under $75,000. You can pick some of them up for low 60s, you throw a tune on it, and it is absolutely ridiculously fast. Even in stock form, of course, it is very fast as well. Such a fun car to drive. It's comfortable, it's practical. Nothing you can really hate about the 911. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. Like always, please browse our channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.